Pretty good gully washer last night. Still rain coming off, water coming off the highlands. You can see right there how high the water was earlier. It's supposed to be another rain just like it tonight. Our elderberries are prospering. I'm pleased. If you look here, all this flattened grass over there under the side of the ditch. See here the marks on the gravel across the road. There's where the rain, there's where the creek comes across under the road and under the new. You can see that even the new tube wasn't nearly enough to carry all the rain as it came through. It is inevitable that the more energy there is in an atmosphere and an ecosystem, the more violent the weather will be. I don't know why that's so difficult for people to comprehend. If you push down the gas pedal on your car, you go faster. You can see that it pretty much roared through. It even over there, it jumped out of the creek and it came across the road here. All down there, all that whole shoulder is washed down. Last night, if I'd have tried to leave the house last night, I wouldn't have been able to because this portion of the road would have all been flooded. Water moving too fast to accept a car. Along the creek on the backside here, you can see there how high the water was overnight easily. You can see over there, I jumped over that point. Now the creek's going around that point, but last night it just jumped over it right there and went straight because there was too much water to make it around that curve. Mostly you can't see the water from here. If you look down there, there's a glimpse of it. I doubt you can see that. But this line right here, that's the near channel, the near bank. And then right over that line, there's a drop down about 8 feet, and the water's down there. And then if you look over there at all that mashed grass, that's where the water ran through here last night during the rainstorm, how high it was above the channel and how it mashed the grass. If you hear, I was talking and they were talking and now they've stopped. But in there, there's a wetland and the frogs are talking to one another, planning to have more babies. I approve. Frogs are singing, stopping, singing, stopping. If you look right here in close, you can see how the water came through. The main channel is over there. That log there crosses the main channel. All this flattened grass on this side, this is where the water came through. That's a little high point, and you see it forces water to go around it. This is the back channel. You can hear all the frogs, little wetland right in there, and they're singing about it. That wetland got recharged by last night's rain. I'm just out for a walk today, observing it because I love it so much. This is our creek. It's a modest little creek, but if you're a small enough person, you can find great joy in it. I mow this, the part that's mowed you can see, and I mow it almost as if it were a lawn. It's got a lot of things that have started growing in it that I don't like, Johnson grass and some other things that don't go with it. If I don't continue to mow it, it will undergo succession and become a thornwoods, and I have enough thornwoods for now. So although it's rather an energy consuming process currently, since I don't have a donkey mower, I choose to mow this and maintain it as a open space, a meadow. This is a hickory. This is this year's planting. That's a honey locust, a thorn tree. It's native, it's a volunteer. I'm trying to upgrade this. Here's this little wetland. I'll show you this in pictures from time to time. You can see now today that it's quite full. As I said, last night's storm recharged it. It's muddy now. The mud hasn't settled out. The mud's the neighbor's soybean field. That's in there's where the frogs were singing, but now that I'm too close to them, they've stopped. You can see the wetland a little better here. All back in there. That's not part of the running creek. The running creek, the wetland runs back over there. If you see that space of land right there, the creek channel's on the other side of that. When it gets out, it comes over on this side and runs through, and it excavates, and then when the high rains quit, then this fills in, this stays full and becomes wetland and frog breeding. I'm very fond of this area. Another view of the wetland. We have a lot of these little black dragony flies flying around. I don't know my dragonfly species very well, so I can't tell you what those are specifically. They're just little black dragony flies. They live here. Frogs are singing. As I walked around here, I jumped a deer from right behind that point there, and she ran over there. That was enjoyable, just to see her. I didn't scare her too much. There's no wetland in there. I don't know how well you can see it. You can see here where the water jumped out and ran across that. That stake in there, that's a, where the heck is it? I don't know. That stake in there is a persimmon tree. We'll go over, or a pawpaw tree. We'll go over and look at it. Here's my little, whatever they are. You can hear the frogs. They like that wetland. As I said, I do too. This back here is what I call Pawpaw Point. It's right immediately adjacent to the wetland. That's a pawpaw. It's prospering. It's this year's planting. There's the wetland in there. All in there. There's a pawpaw right there. Here's another one here. It's not prospering, but it's still surviving. And I'm encouraging it. If you look in there, see how all that grass is flattened and mashed? That's because this is how the creek ran through. The creek channel, right there is the edge of the creek channel, and that's the other edge. And that grass over there that's flattened, that's on the far bank, and this grass over here that's flattened, that's on a near bank. And this is wetland. There in front of us is the high point. The wetland goes around it. The creek's on that side of it. There runs the creek channel right there. And here runs the wetland channel. And she comes around here, moves back up through there, comes back around. You can see how high that is. That's about, there's probably 3 or 4 feet higher than the wetland. Over there, right, if I can get it right there, that's the body of the creek flowing through. The wetland cuts off as we view here towards our left, and the creek channel goes towards our right. You can see here still some wetland in the grass. Now in there are some more pawpaws, and they're not staked. Out here, these 3 out here I staked, and I'm managing these. That is to say, I mow around them to keep them from having to compete. The ones back in there are on their own. I put them where I thought they would prosper, and if they live, they will have lived, and if they die, they will have died, and that's all right. I did what I could. There goes the creek channel there, high land there. Creek comes back around on the other side. That slanty tree there is growing near the bank. You can see here how the creek has jumped the bank here, low bank there, jumped here, not too wide. There's the channel itself. It's the channel proper. You can see it running, where am I? There. Comes around, down through here. You can see that it's still above its low water line. because it's still in the grass, and the grass doesn't grow below the low water line. I'm quite near the edge here. All this grass didn't used to grow here. This used to all be just bare soil, and then it would wash away every time the rain got high. But by adding structure, woody obstructions, semi-natural woody obstructions up all along the bank, I've slowed it enough that it can't tear this grass off, and that means that the grass is able to root and survive these washings, and that means that the erosion processes which washed away and made this creek ever deeper have slowed. So I'm making some progress in my objectives. Over here, this hole here is that's a man-made hole. I come here and steal topsoil that I need in the lawn. I don't take a lot, but there are times when I need to build up a garden or build up another spot, and I come down here and get a scoop full of topsoil with the Ventrac, and then I take it up there, and over time the creek will replenish it for me as long as I'm not too greedy. Everything happens. You see how how the water ran through there, across that. Over there, that's some of the things that I encourage to be in the river creek bank to slow the flow, to absorb the energy and keep it from tearing up the soil. Here, I should have stopped back a little bit. There's that meadow I was showing you that I keep mowed, and it comes down, it goes around that, we'll go there. But you can see here, there's a low spot, a sizable low spot, and the creek has created that. That's wash. And you can see here that during the highest part of the rain last night, that was a side pool. And you can see how it has flattened much of the vegetation. This whole thing over to that line, right up to that tree, and coming back this way, this whole thing is the river expands into this when the rain is high. This here's a young chestnut, and in here there's a young oak right there. They're way too close together. I'm going to have to move one of them. I'm not sure which one I'm going to move. Probably the chestnut. They don't taproot as deeply as the oaks do. You can see here, there's a low place that comes down this way, and you can see that even here, up out of the meadow proper, the rain accumulated together, and by the time it got here, it flattened that grass as it washed in. When I mow down here, I leave tall grass and short grass and trees. Now that creates additional edges where the tall grass ends, which is right here. That's an edge. If you were a frog or a rabbit or a squirrel or a shrew, that would be as big as a forest edge to you. And then that one there, that is a forest edge. That up there is an old railroad roadbed that's been abandoned. And this is where the deer came. I told you I scared the deer out. I scared her out of about there. And she came across here and went back in there. The more edge there is, more wildlife you'll have. Wildlife loves the edge. It doesn't want to live in the forest or out of the forest. It wants to live where the forest and the meadow come together, where the tall grass and the short grass come together. And even these little temporary wetlands here, if amphibians don't benefit from them, bugs will. And our world has far too few bugs now. We've killed so many bugs. Anything that will breed bugs will feed birds. Everything is based on life. If you look down in here, yeah, you can see it. It reflects. See, there's standing water amongst this grass. Water is life. Wherever standing water is, things will have babies. Bugs will have babies, frogs will have babies, toads will have babies. I've never seen any salamanders down here. I'd be thrilled to. There may be some. Over there, that's the edge of the creek bank, that dark spot there, that's the far bank. This is all what we have down here. Down there, let me look at that. Okay, right there, that's where this side, quote, ends, unquote. This high bank comes in from our right. The creek comes over from our left. They meet there, and although our property continues on that way, you can't get that way because the creek leaves our property here, and you can't easily follow that line. This is a very special spot to me. It's cool in the hottest of weather. It's quiet. It's filled with life. You can see here where the creek has jumped out of there and run through that way. These all add to the complexity and the life. Here's the back side of that same spot. If you look for the little shinies in there, those are standing water amongst the grass. I don't know if you can hear the water running from here. I can. I'm not a real farmer. My crop is alive. I don't have to harvest it. I'm harvesting my crop now. I'm harvesting it with my eyes, and it's feeding my spirit. The creek rushes through. The old wood rots. That's fungus. That right there is a genuine climate change poison ivy. They'll get as big as my hat. I mean, they get huge, and that's because poison ivy is a particularly effective consumer of excess carbon. So I don't crowd it, but I don't try to kill it off either. I just try to keep it where we can live in some sense of peace. Let's come all down through here planting. First trip through, I planted all chestnuts. Here's another one. That's planted as a nut a year ago this past April. So that's a second year seedling. You can see here, the main channel is on the far side of this little lump. This here is just a high water channel. It'll go back down there. You can see over there again how the grass is all laid down because the high water roared through here. This creek used to completely dry out every single summer. Now it rarely dries out. I consider that to be probably my biggest single victory as manager of this property, is that through my efforts that creek has become almost permanent. If I can get enough willows in there. See, I'm starting to go in these grassy areas like these, and I plant willow stalks. I'll do that more probably today or tomorrow. And you just cut the branches off willow trees and carry them in there and stick them in the ground. And the more willows I can get to grow in there, the bigger the odds that I will eventually get beavers to move in. And if I ever get beavers to move in, then this creek is permanent forever. Beavers will save it. Pardon me. There's some some pawpaws in here too. Once again, I don't know where. I didn't stake them. I put them back in there. Pawpaws are understory trees. The odds are that's one right there. And they're understory trees, and they can't survive their first year if you plant them in full sun. They need at least some shade. So I go back in here and I plant them in these shady places. Pawpaw is the largest fruit native to North America. So and here's another pawpaw right here. There's one. And so to the extent I can get pawpaws to grow in here, they'll provide a sizable food base for creatures. Now this here, last time I was down here, which was 2 days ago, this was all standing up. This would have been as tall as my stick, vertical, and now it's all been mashed down by the rain. You can see over there how it's all been mashed down. The donkeys and I often come over there. We come down that little slope there. We come in here. We look around and we turn around. I add brush to that spot and that spot where there isn't any. I add brush all in there frequently to reduce the erosion and the wash. You can see how it's eroded back. It's torn some back there. It goes down. You can see here how the creek goes down and around, back in under there. Back here, when the rain hasn't just fallen, the creek here will be 3 to 4 feet lower than it is now. It'll be in a channel about 4 to 5 feet wide and about 8 inches deep. And so now right here we're looking at 3 or 4 feet deep, something like that. This is the end of this. I can't get across from here to the other side. We'll have to go back up the way we came, back up through that. That's the entry to this place. See, this place is like a little secret hidey hole. And I think I put some more pawpaws in here too, but I can't remember for sure. I just put them places and let them grow. Life is life. If it grows, I'm happy, and if it doesn't, why, some of it does. Now we'll have to walk back all the way to the far end where the neighbor's house is, out here. You can see there's another one of those. They don't like to have the camera pointed at them. I tell you what, anybody who thinks we're aware and the rest of life isn't, doesn't pay much attention to the rest of life. That's all I got to say. Here's another chestnut. Once the chestnuts form here, in places I will continue to expand the forest, and in other places I won't. I'll continue to maintain the meadow. I just came down here to look. I knew it had rained hard last night. I love it. I love the creek and I love the wetland. I love the way that the rain alters it and it changes back and it bees all what it is. My feet are squishing. That's all right. This line here, this whole wood line on our left here, is along this abandoned railroad spur. Used to be a public facility back behind us across the road that the spur fed. Up there at the far fence, you see that little swimming pool up there and stuff. That's where our property ends. That's a yard, and people live there, and so that's all good. Their collie's barking at me because I'm a person. He's a good dog. That's all for now. I'll talk to y'all later.